Have you ever wondered Dragon Age Inquisition really deserves the Game of the Year award? Let's have a little talk about it. The story begins right after Dragon Age 2 where Templar and Mages are at war and the Chantry trying to get them together at the Conclave. But something bad happened and the sky exploded, with you being caught in the rifts and rescued, and people adopting and judging you to be the one behind the massive explosion in the sky and murder the Chantry's Divine. On your hand, you have marks on that gets bigger as the bridge on the sky expands, but it is also the only two that can close the rifts. After a while, you become the only person to be relied on in solving issues and lead the whole Inquisition into something bigger. That brings us to the character customization. You can either use the given presets or custom a new one. While it's not the best I've seen, but certainly not a bad one either. The details is pretty badass. I've seen pretty good looking characters made from the tool, but the body is predetermined by your gender and races. With 4 races, 2 gender for each, and 5 class for each, you have plenty of choice. But the voice options for me is kind of a letdown. Only 2 options available, one with American accent and one with English accent. Gameplay, in my opinion, is great, but not without its flaws. First of all, the technical screen. While it is a welcome addition that comes back from Origins, but actually the greatest disappointment on the PC version, especially when you are playing indoors. The camera height makes the field of view useless, and I don't really use that technical screen while playing. It's unbearable. The control is definitely feel like a lazy console port. It uses WASD control to simulate the left thumbstick, and A and D button is bound to turn left and right by default instead of strafing. Mouse left click as attack and right click as interact. Luckily all of this is repinable. The only thing good about PC keyboard and mouse interface is the toolbar that's assigned to key 1 till 0. But only 1 to 8 is bindable to a skill, 9 is bound to your health potion, and 0 and unknown for me because it's still locked for after 40 hours of my gameplay is for tonic and grenade. And your character won't move to your target by right clicking or left clicking, so you always have to be within the range of your target in order to execute a task successfully. This does take time to get used to, but with controller in your hand, it certainly feels more intuitive. At least it's not on the level of Dungeon Siege 3 level of broken keyboard and mouse control. There are changes in the mechanics. Some might argue that it is for better or worse, but it certainly changed the way you play the game. It will become an action RPG, and you certainly want to time your abilities with your opponent's action. Like when I play as warrior with weapon and shield, I time my shield wall with the enemy's attack so I can gain the advantage of shield wall while dealing some damage as well. But not being careful enough in this, and you will kill your party instead. There are some challenges in the balancing of the offense and defense here, so some will argue it's good for the gameplay. As for the attributes like strength, dexterity, and constitution now cannot be adjusted like before. The attributes are raised by either unlocking the abilities in your skill tree or using your gears. Luckily, the equipment customization in this game is very good. It's an excellent piece of work. I don't exactly like how the attributes are being handled, but my opinion might differ from yours. Some might prefer less complicated things, some might prefer simpler things. So each of their own. And as for the crafting, it's very good. You go out on an adventure, find the recipes, schematics, gather the material needed. Each materials will give you different effects. you can change your attributes, you can give you extra effects like bleed, staggering, heal effects, increase maximum health. You can create any desired effects that you want. So on your adventure, whenever you see any kind of resources, metals, leather, especially the leather one, you really want to stop what you are doing, grab the resource, and continue your journey afterwards. It will pay you back. AI Tactical is now reduced to nothing compared to Origins. What makes Origins really compelling for me is the freedom to program your party how to behave, when to drink the potion, which party member to heal and buff, which poison to apply to your weapon before start attacking. It's very flexible. However, it makes the game a lot more complex. As complex as it can go, you just program them once and leave it throughout the game as long as your strategy doesn't change. After that programming, all you need to do is pausing before the first attack and tell your party members where to position themselves and gain more advantage in that positioning. Resume the attack. With Inquisition, you are limited to what skills to use, what targeting behavior to follow, and when to drink the health potion along with stamina and mana reserves. You can really tell your party when to drink the delirium potion, when to use the poison for the weapon, and when to throw the grenades. You have to do all those manually. Some people might like this less complicated design, but it doesn't feel Dragon Age to me. The game initially doesn't really rely that heavily on the original lore and stories, so newcomer to the Dragon Age series might not feel burdened at first half of the game, but as the game progresses, backstory becoming more and more present. For Dragon Age vets, you can get your backstory by uploading your save into the Dragon Age Keep, but if you don't like your previous game story, you can just pretty much customize your own in there. As for newcomers, you can either use the default state of the world, this is basically the default story of the Dragon Age, or go through the keep process to customize your own backstory. I don't want to spoil, but different decisions you make in the previous game will certainly affect the way your adventure goes. And different chat options might be available to you as well. As per many BioWare games, the way you decide and talk to your companions will certainly affect to your approval rating. But seriously, you can't please everyone at the same time. Some will approve your actions, some will definitely disagree. In the graphic department, the game is definitely beautiful. Despite being so beautiful and pretty alive for me, it doesn't really require very high-end hardware to run. As per recommendation, GTX 660 is good enough to run it. I run it on GTX 680 and it is on high with some extra effects. The game ran very well within 50 to 60 frames per second if the weather is good. If the weather is not really good, it's running within 30 to 40 frames per second. I didn't notice it dips below 30 frames per second, but I might have just missed it really. The game, however, will lock the frame rate at 30 frames per second in cinematics, but I don't really mind. Frame time might not have been really good on my machine as I always notice stutters, but this is only on cinematics. Content is huge. I've clocked 40 hours, but I don't think I'm halfway through the story yet. I either spend more time on completing the side quests or hunting for the materials for crafting. While it is being touted as open world, it's not really is. The locations are separated, but each locations are pretty big and none of them are reused area as per what it is in Dragon Age 2. Each of these locations are separated by loading screens, and boy, the loading screen took very long. Probably thanks to my hard disk drive anyway. I don't understand the decision in making the loading screen. First it will have black load screen with Inquisition logo, and then it goes to loading screen with tips, but before I can finish reading the tips or story, the loading screen changed to black screen again. I don't really understand this. For the love of God, BioWare, reduce the amount of loading screen, please. The thing that I'm most pleased about Dragon Age Inquisition is that the game really feels complete and well developed. Unlike Assassin's Creed Unity that is in my opinion totally broken. In these days, any games that release without major issues on launch day actually a luxury for gamers. I haven't encountered any kind of crash, major game breaking bugs or anything similar. Minor glitches, yeah, but none of them actually requires me to remove my friends from my friend list. Yes, I'm looking at you, Ubisoft. The only time that I have problems with my game is when the Nvidia driver doesn't want to play nice with me and have to reboot the whole system. So kudos to BioWare and EA for doing the right thing. My final verdict. This game definitely is a game of the year materials. It has its flaws, really makes you wonder why the publishers really focus on consoles anyway. But at the same time, this game is really fun to play, has pretty good story to back it up, and hey, it's the first good single player game after quite some time. So go out there and buy this game. Till then, I'm signing out.